Hello everyone, welcome to this week in gaming news. It is Sunday, May 22nd, so let's get right into things, starting off with benchmarks for the GTX 1080. As you can see, it does outperform the Titan X, the 980 Ti, the 980, and pretty much every other card before it. Some other benchmarks not shown here. It does not always beat 980 Ti's and SLI, but it sometimes can. When it comes to 1440p, as you can see, the GTX 1080 is able to maintain above 60 FPS at quite a comfortable 87 to 90. At 4K though, it's not so much. It's a little bit below 60 FPS, but that's not too bad. But the real question is, can it run Crysis? And the answer is yes. At 1080p, it can run at over 100 frames per second. At 1440p, it runs still at over 60 FPS. And when it comes to 4K, of course, to nobody's surprise, it runs well below 60 FPS, but that is, after all, expected just because it's Crysis. Also from NVIDIA, we do have the specs for the GTX 1070, which is the sister card to the 1080, and as you can see, it has 1920 CUDA cores, a base clock of around 1500 MHz, 8GB of GDDR5, which isn't GDDR5X like the 1080, and a memory speed of 8 gigabits per second. There actually is some controversy because people were thinking that the GTX 1070 is, oh my god, it has like 22% less CUDA cores than the GTX 1080, which is apparently the biggest gap for a sister card in a long while. But even so, it's still rumored to outperform a Titan X, so things should be alright, because for $379 outperforming a Titan X, you really can't beat that. Well, aside from NVIDIA, Google had their I.O. conference, and they've announced a lot of things. Starting off, we have Daydream, which is their new VR platform for smartphones, so that should be a pretty cool thing. In addition to that, they've also announced 2 new messaging apps. We have Google Allo, which is their text app, which actually does have like predictive speech things. So anytime there's like a picture or a text, there will be a little bit of, a few bubbles that you can tap on that have predicted responses. So that way we can get even less personal with our own conversations and just tap bubbles and talk to each other. It would be actually really hilarious to have a conversation only tapping those bubbles and just see where it goes. In addition to that, Google Duo is their attempt to compete with FaceTime, which is pretty much just voice chat or video chat. And whenever you get a call, apparently you can have the camera of the other person appear, so that way it's kind of, like a sneak peek, who's calling, where are they at, what do they want maybe. That should be pretty cool, and it'll be interesting to see how well that competes with FaceTime. Maybe it'll not compete very well at all, but I feel as though with Android being as popular as it is, it's going to be a fairly good competitor. Also announced by Google is the Google Home Assistant, which is their competitor to the Amazon Echo, which pretty much is just a little box that sits in your house and you can talk to it and it'll answer you, and it generally just spies on you and acts weird. But apparently there actually is a mic mute button, so you don't just have a creepy little box with, you giving Google all of your information and it listening to your conversations. Much less creepy, however, is Android N, which is Google's newest Android platform, and it's pretty much just, it's Android with a few improvements to speed, stability. There's actually a feature where you can open some apps without having to download them, because the phone will actually just download what you need to view, and then you can use that part of the app, and it should be pretty good. So I guess we'll see how it turns out. But that's all the news we have today. Thank you for watching. I've been the Saxy Gamer. I said that with a strange bit of accent on the end of that last phrase. But thank you for watching. I've been the Saxy Gamer with some good old gaming news. If you enjoyed, feel free to like. If you didn't enjoy, feel free to dislike, subscribe, anything that you want to do. I'll be back in maybe next week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how much news. Thank you and goodbye.